Kathy Bates lives in Birmingham. The nursing home she visits is just some weird rural place. And then Whistle Stop, I think, is like sort of Alabama, Georgia, central Alabama, I guess.
What, you named a lot of things there.
Like it's on the Alabama, Georgia line in central Alabama.
Okay.
So, so that's where it takes place. And the movie opens with Kathy Bates. She's going to visit her husband's aunt in the nursing home. Kind of weird change from the book. In the book, they're visiting his mom. In the movie, it's his aunt. Who gives a shit about an aunt? I guess if it's an aunt, then it's forgivable that Kathy Bates doesn't go into the actual room to visit.
Maybe it gives it a little, and that they all clearly only ever visit this lady on holidays. It's specifically always a different holiday in the guest room whenever they, it's Halloween, it's Christmas.
That's true.
It's New Year's. So it helps you see the passage of time. I get it.
And it starts with they get lost. They're trying to find the nursing home, and they end up in this abandoned, shitty town.
And hear a whistle.
Whistle stop. And Kathy Bates hears the train, and she's like, "Do you hear the train?
Ed, did you hear that?"
And he's like, "I don't hear nothing, y'all woman, you." And
shut up. Put a pie in your hole.
So she can hear the past. The past talks to her. And this movie, one of the things is
Matt,
about.
Is it that she's distant?
Well, yes, that's why. But that's why she's able to hear this past and be able to be receptive to the legend of E.G. Threadgood.
E.G. Threadgood.
And how it helps her change her life.
Mm-hmm.
But they go to the nursing home, and Kathy Bates just goes to wants to go sit by herself in the waiting room while her husband visits with his aunt. Again, it's weird visiting his aunt.
People like their aunts, Matt. I'm very close to my aunts. And it's a very Southern thing to do.
Lying.
Okay, thanks.
And then my fucking nightmare happens. Pulling up the clip now. And Jessica Tandy is just sitting on the other side of the waiting room playing solitaire. Kathy Bates comes in. Jessica Tandy hears her, turns around.
Amazing hearing.
Did you know they took my gallbladder out? No, I didn't.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Still in the hospital in a jar. I guess that's
now she's coming over to talk to you.
I guess.
What an opener.
When I was in the hospital, the nurse gave me one of them fleet enemas.
Now let's talk about your butthole.
Mrs. Cleo Threadgood, 82-year-old widow.
82, yeah.
Actually, everybody calls me Minnie. Of course, I'm just visiting here.
Of course.
Did you ever have one of them fleet enemas?
Well, she gives it some good thought.
You'd remember it.
My grandpa did talk a lot about like his bowel movements and
well, it's a miracle
the
when they
bowel
keep on
movements
going.
of others. And I guess this is
plumbing is serious. When it stops, you die.
I was at a urologist last year to get a vasectomy consult. And so I'm the youngest person there by many decades. And I'm sitting in the waiting room and I open up my phone and this old lady's like, all the people are on their phones these days. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not. And I put it down and I'm like, oh, what do you want? And she starts talking to me, but this doesn't happen to me. I kind of wish it did.
What? So it did or it didn't?
It didn't have, like, she didn't tell me an interesting story.
Oh.
She just complained about her grandkids.
Oh, well, yeah, because our grandkids suck.
All right, let's go ahead and spoil something now because Jessica Tandy is playing Ninny and is narrating this whole story that she supposedly witnessed and was a part of, but it is unclear which character she is supposed to be.
We never meet a Ninny.
Yeah.
In the backstory.
And then the final revelation of the movie is, oh, actually, you're the hero of the movie. It was you all along. And in the book, this is not the case. Ninny is not Iggy.
Okay.
Ninny is just another, and this is, something you can do in books. The Great Gatsby, the story of Gatsby told from the point of view of
right. You can't see who's in the background.
Yeah, in a movie, it's harder to do. But I think this is a giant miscalculation. That it's just distracting because you're like, well, so who is Jessica Tandy then? And then you're like, oh, is she Iggy? And then when it happens, you're like, oh, of course, I knew it. But it's just distracting and totally doesn't jive with, like, here she's talking to Kathy Bates and she talked about her enema already. And then she's immediately going to jump in. You ever hear of E.G. Threadgood? Iggy was fucking awesome. And she's talking about herself.
Okay, tell me this. In the book, what? In the book, are there the undertones that I sense in the movie about a relationship more than a friendship between Ruth and...
In the book, it is an explicit, acknowledged lesbian romance.
Oh,
so
fuck
let's
yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that then. This movie
right under our nose
hints that this is a story about two women falling in love and engaging in a forbidden sexual relationship. The book is that is the text. That is not the subtext. And the movie erases it.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think that they do this. I'm Nanny, just kidding. I married a man, just kidding. I'm Iggy. I mean, it's only what, 91? And so I do think that because she has to say revealing things about herself to this stranger, that maybe she's just waiting to see how the stranger feels about those things before saying, it's me.
No, I know why the character would do it. I'm saying in terms of watching the movie and engaging with the story, that
Well,
hurts the ability to follow the story and engage with the movie.
Okay, I guess so.
To have that misdirect.
But if they're not going to be as direct about the actual sexual relationship in the movie, I'm saying that maybe this is one way that they hint toward the taboo nature of it for a person from her generation, is that she's not coming right out and saying who she is before gauging Evelyn's reaction to the whole thing.
Again, I know that's why she would do that. I know she
No,
wouldn't
I'm not asking if you understand why she would do it. I'm saying that since the movie's not going there, maybe this is one way they tried to get that point across more.
The point being
that it's a lesbian relationship.
By her disguising who she is, that's okay. I mean, I labeled 2 different clips. This is not supposed to be a romance. Like, I don't know how anybody can watch this and not.
Yeah, I mean, as an adult, I can't. It's totally obvious. But as a kid, I missed it completely.
Yeah, if you wanted to make a movie in 1991 that was about an explicit lesbian romance, you wouldn't be. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be a mainstream, big Hollywood movie.
People had to be able to paint whatever, and this is supposed to appeal to Southern audiences, a really conservative, at least voting population. So, yeah, I mean, it was smart marketing wise for it. This way, people who are in the queer community could read it that way, and then the people who weren't could read it however they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, you make it more universal. Now you can see, and not that you can't see it if it's a gay romance, but you can see like, well, this is just about people who are a little different, and I'm kind of a little different too, and I don't fit in, and people want things from me that I don't want for myself. Yeah, I mean, this movie isn't a giant hit if it's an explicit lesbian romance, but I mean, I have to admit, I didn't find out whose call it was to make that change, what they thought about that, what the author of the book thought about that.
Well, and it goes to show you how much making movies from books is not at all about trying to capture the population of people who love the book. Not at least not for this genre. Maybe they don't no one cares about the book. Like, this is just good source material, and they can just do whatever they want with it. And in fact, it hurts the movie if you've read the book and liked the book for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, but it's there. I mean, there's the director of the movie even defended it. He's like, I mean, the scene, I'll pull up where they Iggy and Ruth have a food fight,
which I love. How
do you watch it and not view this as basically a sex scene? So he's like, if you knew what to look for, then
some fetish squishing stuff there.
But the point is I mean, queer washing is a real thing, and you're holding an audience's hand and saying, I don't want to have to make you see something that you're a little uncomfortable seeing.
And look, and Grady wants that Iggy so bad, and now he's just, of course it's him that goes in and says, stop it, stop lesbianing about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the story of Iggy?
Well, okay, so she is you would call a tomboy, and also probably just what's the disorder where you're defiant and you can't help it?
Defiant and can't help it.
What oppositional defiance or whatever. What children have it.
Wow. Oh,
okay. Anyway, never mind. It's basically that they need direction so they know the opposite way to go. Like they just it's just something you get stuck in. It's a phase. Anyway.
Her real name is Imogen.
Okay, so she clearly has very, conventionally attractive sisters and brothers, and this is a weird looking child. I don't know if they meant to pick such a strange looking child, but she just, she's going her own. She's rough. She likes to do boy stuff. She likes to fish. She likes to climb up trees. And the only person that really understands her is her older brother, Buddy. He's the only one that gives her time of day and values the way that she is. So let's just say, though, the only parts of this story that are told, and this woman's 82, so she's had a long life. She's had children after this happened. She's had marriages. She's had other friendships. She's had a million other things happen. But she specifically only tells Evelyn where her relationship with Ruth starts and where her relationship with Ruth ends. And then the story ends. Mm-hmm. So this is less a story about Iggy's life and more a story only about Iggy and Ruth's romance. Mm-hmm. And it starts because Buddy and Ruth are sweet on each other. And we witness the horrific train death of her brother, Buddy. And how
Buddy is Chris O'Donnell. Mm-hmm. And he too has Jessica Tandy's disease of only being able to talk in stories and parables. And I ever tell you about the oysters.
Everything. Yeah, I always hated these.
Yeah. This is Iggy's living in this world where everybody's like a prop Joe from The Wire, can only talk and telling stories about the old days. Yeah, it's my nightmare.
Yeah. So, wow, the only person she connects to is this guy, and then the same day he dies.
In a very silly death. Gets his foot caught in the train
He's
trap.
wearing lace-up boots. They take forever. Whatever, you're a silly death. Anyway, so the next time you see Iggy, she's all grown up, and Ruth's coming back into the picture because her mom before you get married now, Ruth, could you come live with us for the summer and turn my frog into a lady? And
saying things like, Iggy, you can't turn your back on your family. I'm like, what is she doing to turn her back on her family? Things are pretty good, it seems like.
Well, it doesn't seem like she has any relationship with her family at all, except for she probably lives with her family, but she goes and does whatever she wants. And she drinks and she gambles and, she's just not making anything of her life. But it's like, what are the options in this town? Like, what? The tallest building is 2 stories. What is she going to go do? Like, there's already a marshal. What big ambition is she not? Like, she's fishing and she's getting honey and she knows all the people. It seems like she's checked all the boxes of small town living.
Yeah.
She's just wearing men's clothes, Matt, and it's got to stop. Plus, she's pretty. Son of a bitch, she's pretty. Can't go wasting that ass.
Yeah, Ruth is trying to deprogram Iggy, but Iggy kind of deprograms Ruth by, like, come with me on my adventures. I ride in a boxcar and I throw food to poor people.
Okay, can we just, though, right off the bat, something's wrong with Ruth. I mean, she's clearly on pills, right? She is in slow motion it becomes very, like, charming. But that woman is near nap.
Yeah, her energy is, she's low energy.
She's very waif. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would disagree that Ruth tries to deprogram her. I think Ruth
That's what she's hired to do by the mom.
Okie dokie. She's just trying to get to know her and see if she can figure out, what makes her tick and, like, how can she get her to be part of the rest of the town and her family. I'm just saying there's no scene where she tries to get her in a dress and put on makeup. And if it were true, like, deprogramming, Ruth would try to Ruth her up. And, like, Ruth's got no energy for that. She's like, hold on. I'm going to go down these stairs. Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, everything just takes it out of her. Anyway, so...
This, if we didn't say, for those who haven't seen the movie, it's at this point that Iggy is now played by an adult, by Mary Stuart Masterson, whereas Ruth, who we met earlier, was also played by an adult. This is the part of the romance that's a little iffy.
Right. What is the age difference here?
It's not the age difference, but I first bonded with you when you were a child. Now you're an adult. Let's get to it.
That's
weird.
Sexy ass child, though.
You said she was ugly.
Handsome. No. Yeah, the ages don't make sense. But they do make it sound like only like 3 or 4 years has passed, which does not compute. Mm-hmm. But yeah, all right, whatever. It's a different time. Fuck you. Don't ruin this for me. And so she charms bees and
yeah, she's able to they go
well, don't get mad at me, Ruth.
They go to a bee hive, a bee tree,
a bee hole,
a honey hole, and Iggy just brazenly, calmly, with poise and grace, reaches in, pulls out a honeycomb. Bees are all over, but she doesn't get stung. And
Promise.
the actress did this stunt herself. They didn't get a stunt person. They had a bee doctor on hand. But the director in the director's commentary said, honeybees won't really sting you if you don't bother them.
It's not bothering them to stick your hand in their honey hole?
No, they won't do anything to you unless you like pinch them or step on them or whatever.
Yeah, but how do you know you're going in for honeycomb and you're not pinching a bee's butt?
That's why you got to be careful and calm. And Ruth's like, wow, this is crazy that you're able to do that. And it's
Well,
just like, 'tain't nothing.
Ruth's done nothing but take her vitamins and also her adult vitamins her whole life and then get sleepy and take a nap and then become a woman and then have a husband and then get beaten and take a pill. So just all this activity is just, it's overwhelming
it's
for
adding
Ruth.
up, yeah.
It's, whew.
But Ruth and Iggy, you know, they're very sweet, very charming,
Yes.
having fun together. And this is opening up Ruth's coming to life a little bit. Kind of. Maybe she's going to put her pill problem behind her. Maybe not, because the summer's coming to a close.
Just say there's no explicit drug or pill use. There's no, she doesn't even drink.
No, it's
just
subtext.
It's just, is it?
It's there. You have to. No, it's.
Is it in the book? Well, I'm
No.
just saying they're fucking blatant lesbians in the book. Maybe she's a pill popping partner also.
No. It's just her energy is that
just
she's
her
kind of
energy.
open mouth, kind of.
It's not
Kind
her
of
open
very,
mouth.
very Ginny Thomas, wife of Clarence. If you know what I'm saying.
Totally.
Just kind of addled, you know? A lot going on. She's hearing a lot of things on talk radio and doesn't know what to believe. And so Ruth has to go marry a man, and this is what's her husband, Frank? Mm-hmm. Frank, played by Nick Searcy, who we of course know as Timothy Oliphant's boss on Justified. Just a delight.
Oh, fuck. Howdy do.
Yeah.
That gives me complicated feelings.
Why?
Because one of them I like and one of them I don't like acting.
What about him do you not like?
What? About her husband?
Yeah.
The wife
Name
abuse
one
or the
thing
racism?
he doesn't do that's good. One thing he
Right.
does that isn't good.
Well, anyway, classically, you know, the summer ends and Ruth had already divulged to Iggy that she was marrying at the end of the summer, and she does that, and she tries to visit her, but it's weird, so they grow apart, and she finally says, fuck it, I need to see that hot snatch, and she goes over there like, I don't know, 3 years later, or it's hard to tell, and Ruth won't look at her all the way, and when she does turn her head, shiner. So there you go. He beats her.
Iggy, you know, is like, "Who? He did this to you? I'm gonna fucking kill him. Let me at him right now. I'm gonna fucking kill him."
Which
and she's like, "No, you got to go away. Leave me alone,
Which
Iggy."
seemed really like heroic to me before I knew anything about abusive, especially physically abusive relationships. And then it's like, no, Ruth handles that exactly correct, which is like, if you love me, you will leave right now. Like literally, I can contain the amount of commotion you just created. I can make an excuse for this. But if you do one moment more, I'm going to get so fucking beat up over this.
Yeah.
And Iggy takes her seriously, and, you know, and then sure enough, Frank comes down and she's like, oh, nothing. It's just Iggy bringing me a pie.
You do a good Mary-Louise Parker.
Because it is the exact sound of my family. And it's what I worked out. Now I sound like this New Yorker you hear right now. Hear my New York accent?
I do. We're always talking about the Yankees.
Well, that you don't have
And
to talk
let's get on the subway, and I'm walking here.
Hey!
And I guess in the modern story, Kathy Bates is hearing this, and then we get to see her home life, and her husband, you know, he's a nice guy, but he doesn't really give her the time of day. He just wants to come into the home and watch the baseball game.
Boy, he has timing though, right? As soon as the dinner hits the table, he is in the door from work, picks up a china plate, a whole fucking plate full of chicken and gravy and a beer, and he's got it all in his claws. Mm-hmm. He sits down, turns on the tube, game. Fucking timing.
The director in the commentary said that he really likes their relationship, and he's like, I think they're very sweet together, and you know, you come in through the door and your wife's got a 6-pack of beers for you. What a wife!
Yeah.
Like, I guess he's kidding, but he's kind of not.
I mean, he's like, what if they didn't have thoughts and did this instead? Neat.
He's always watching football and baseball and basketball. Basketball in the 80s. This guy in Alabama's watching basketball. I don't think so. Evelyn is kind of going to all these modern women's groups, and she meets Constance Schulman, who we of course know as Patty Mayonnaise from Doug.
Had a really good time tonight, Doug.
That's
So
just her
infatuated with
voice.
this.
Just whenever I see her in live action, just like that's just what she sounds. Hi, Doug. Let's go on to the women's group and look at our vaginas.
She's
Doug.
got the nerve to have that voice everywhere she goes. Like, fucking Patty.
No, good Patty. I'm saying double Patty.
Oh,
Well,
you do like a double Patty, don't you?
In the book, the portion of the book that I read, I just got the sense that this
Sweetness.
I just don't really like the Kathy Bates story in the movie. It comes across very sitcom-y. I mean, especially when she's with her husband. I think when she's with Jessica Tandy, it's nicer. From what I read in the book, she's a much more poignant, just much more sad character. They changed a key detail, which is that her husband cheated on her, and as a response, she decided to work on herself to try to improve her marriage. No thought about like it's his fault.
Right.
So she's a much more repressed character. You get to experience more of her inner life. And
What about the evolution? Do you get to have such an evolution of a character?
From the Wikipedia, yes.
Okay.
But I didn't get to that part. They center her being an empty nester, her having kids that are now grown up and gone. She's only 48, but she's too young to be this old.
Too old to be young. And that's what she says. And that happens to a lot of Southern people, or probably just people who are in rural situations or like close-knit family situations that don't really talk much about higher education and careers and stuff for women. And so she couches it as she's a very Southern woman. And from my experience, I can say that that's definitely true. Even if you are going on to a career, you have your kids early 20s. So that is the time your nest is empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it puts you in a weird limbo between not young and not old.
Also kind of makes an interesting connection to the Iggy story, because if she's viewing this as a queer romance, is kind of hearing about an alternate life in which she doesn't aspire to have kids. Iggy does not, at least in the story that Evelyn is hearing. Life isn't going to revolve around having kids, isn't going to revolve around finding a male partner. And that kind of activates this thing in her too. So I wanted to play this. Sorry.
Well, and this story poignantly is not about like Iggy, if we're to believe, I mean, I'm sure we believe it, but she does go on to actually marry a man and does have a child. And it's kind of alluded to that she was maybe later in life when she had the child, because the child had some sort of disability, and they told her to put him in an institution, and he lived till he was 30, which breaks my heart. But, that is a harrowing story too, but that's not what she chose to talk to Evelyn about.
Yeah.
But she chose to talk to Evelyn about who she could see. I mean, I don't know. I guess she can't tell that she was leaving a room of someone who did not want to visit with her. It's just interesting. What kind of person ends up in the visiting room of a place where you go to visit someone in their room? Children, right? People who get kicked out of rooms for being loud. But maybe Iggy can just assume that if someone's jilted out of a room, they're probably feeling a little hung out to dry, a little unwanted. So maybe that's why she was so eager to speak to her. Anyway,
Maybe I think it's a wide net. It's just she's fishing. She's
like,
scamming.
one came back.
Yeah.
But anyway, for her to see this woman who probably definitely has kids, you can just guess that about her, and then be like, you know what, I'm going to tell her the story about my younger years and this woman I loved, not about something that this person could instantly relate to. The trap of falling in line with, she even says it, the required one boy, one girl. You don't have less children. You don't have one child. That only child is a weirdo. You don't do that. So it's the minimum. She did the minimum. And you don't get to have a youth. You don't get to have the period of time where you make decisions about your life. You marry a man and you're consumed with children, and then it spits you out the other end, uncool, unflattering body, and feeling older than you are and not relating to anyone at all.
And by the time you start adapting some of the viewpoints, some of the ideas of maybe the more radical 60s or 70s, everybody's like, We're past that, dude. You're too old for that anyway.
Right.
We don't want to hear
You're
it from
too
you.
slow and you're too bleh, whatever those mean ladies say when they get out of their car and take her spot. I just want to stop you. We're watching the movie as we do the podcast, and you said the most. Oh, this is a romance scene of the whole thing was their little food fight. I disagree. I'd have that food fight in a second with my cousin. I'm Southern, but this scene in the cafe at night after they both just went through the invasion of Frank coming into their house with his KKK buddies, trying to scare them. This is after he grabs the kid, right? Or no, he does not try to take the baby yet. This is just him scaring them because he comes twice, right? And this is Ruth realizing like, oh God, I've really caused like a whole thing in your life because I ran away from this crazy man. I'm a burden. I'm so sorry. Me and Buddy will leave, her kid, her little baby. And the exchange they have is so clearly Iggy confessing her love. Like, are you crazy? Like, if you left, what would I even be here for? Like, you're not in an imposition. You are the reason I have a good life. They don't say all that, but that it's the most romantic scene in the whole movie, I think, is this because relationships are tested, especially blended relationships, right? Where you've got baggage. You're already a woman who's past her prime in Southern terms. You met me after I'd already had a kid and felt like unworthy of being in like an awesome romance. Like if that time had passed me by.
Like you and me.
I'm saying you and me.
Okay.
I said you and me.
Oh.
And
I thought you meant Ruth and Iggy.
I crossed over. And then, the real strength of a relationship is tested when the baggage of being with a person who's been through some life already happens, and you're like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. This isn't just us like being into each other anymore. Like, do you really want to be a part of this? And it's when when you really know, like, you're really in love. I was serious all along, and this was never a fling. I want your baby baggage.
Yes.
I want that baby ass. Well, I don't want the baby's ass. I want the ass your baby.
I would kill and cook someone for you and serve it to my customers.
Yes, and we're in marketing, so that's weird.
Well,
with every website, brisket.
You do what you have to do for love.
I'm just saying, it's strange when you send them brisket in the mail all the time, and they're like,
it doesn't keep.
You're a marketing person.
Just want to back up to the food fight.
Oh, sorry.
The it being sexy and romantic is not that they're having a food fight. It's the way it's filmed and edited. If someone shot and edited and scored you and your cousin having a food fight, it might appear a little different.
And not like, smush the berries in my hand.
We can
rub them up and down your face.
The next major movement of the movie is that Ruth's ex-husband dies. The movie certainly makes you think that it was Iggy who orchestrated his being killed.
Not orchestrated, just did the blow or hit the guy in the head.
The movie, when you've seen the movie, if you saw it for the first time, I'm saying if you see it for the first time and don't know who actually killed him, the movie is making you think that this is all Iggy spearheading when it turns out.
Again, you said spearheading and you said orchestrated. Both of those imply advanced planning.
Yeah.
How? He showed up unannounced.
That after he shows up unannounced, that you were to think she decided she would do something about this and she would kill him.
He shows up unannounced for a second time. How could she have any knowledge that was going to happen? It's the night of her putting on that Follies program thing.
That when he comes back, I will do something. I will be ready for him.
Okay, but you're out of your mind. Because
I'm out of my mind.
Yes, the movie does nothing to make you think that some kind of plan's been put in action. Big George comes and gets her, and she's like, "Oh shit, I gotta go help." Meanwhile, he's already grabbed the baby in the bassinet, already to his car. He pushes whoever tried to stop him.
The movie withholds from you for another hour who hit him, and that's deliberate because you are to think that it was Iggy. Because the movie starts with Jessica Tandy saying, "I can't believe anybody would think that she would."
I know, Matt. But that is a far cry from saying that she orchestrated or spearheaded something. She ran after her friend's baby with a pan to stop the man from. It's a what do you call that? A heat of the moment act. There's no.
No, I think you're not able to view this as a first-time viewer and see how this is set. See what the movie is trying to make you think is going to happen.
All it does is make you think that Iggy's the one that killed him, not that she thought about it in advance.
Oh, you're okay. You're doing your majoring and minors thing. Who cares that I said spearheaded? The movie wants you to think E.G.
Oh
is the
my
one
God.
who did the murder.
When you listen back to this, you will see that you made this sound like a conspiracy rather than a heat of the moment crime of passion. And that was my only distinction. You're the one choosing not to hear the distinction.
Fair enough.
Great. Moving on.
It's finally revealed it was not E.G., but it was Sipsy and Big George.
It wasn't.
No?
It was Sipsy.
Okay.
Big George chopped him up and ate him.
Yes.
Well, but that was Iggy's idea.
And now
Was
E.G.,
to barbecue him.
because she's a white savior, takes the heat, goes on trial, and then the pastor who she's kind of been charmingly feuding with the whole time comes and gives her an alibi. And now everything's good, but now Iggy and Ruth can live together in romantic bliss, except Ruth dies, because that's what happens in gay romance movies.
That's true. God forbid they're happy.
Yeah, no, someone's got to die. It's a grand tradition. I mean, Brokeback Mountain is the peak of it. Someone has to die. And
This romance cannot continue.
I did not know that this movie had a death in it. Sometimes, movies are death or weepy crygasm movies.
Yes.
I didn't know about this one. I did not find it very affecting, I will say.
Huh.
The charming thing, I mean,
I don't agree.
The moving, I know you don't. The moving thing for me is just seeing them together. Is just seeing them living their lives together.
Yes. There's actually 2.5. Well, there's 3 deaths, but there's they do make you think for a second that the boy is also going to meet the same fate as Buddy does. He's named Buddy when he's born, the baby Ruth's baby. And then he gets hit by a train, also loses his arm, but that's it. But anyway, you forgot about Buddy's death. There is a death before there's the death.
Well, I didn't say there was only one death, but the centerpiece death of the movie, the big thing the movie's building up toward, the big crying moment
That's
is this.
an appetizer death, and then there was
Yes.
like a starter's death, and then now
The
there's
the thing with the kid,
yeah.
it is kind of the movie being like acknowledging that it's pretty crazy to have had a railroad guy getting hit by a train death earlier in the movie, and then it's going to do it again. Another person's going to get hit by a train and die, because it then cuts and it's a funeral. And you're like, oh, come on, really? But then they reveal it's just a funeral for the kid's arm, which was severed
It's
by
also
the train.
crazy that there was a traumatic train death in these people's lives, and they still let the children of the town play by the fucking train tracks. That's what's crazy.
No,
That's
they
not
weren't
a
good
toy.
parents back then.
Well, it's the whistle stop. It attracts the trains. Maybe that's off limits. If we lived right by a highway and we were called the Highway Cafe, it wouldn't be like, okay, well, then you get to play with the highway children. It's part of our
if you
culture.
grew up on the water, if you were a sea dog, you would, and somebody drowned, you wouldn't tell your kids not to go in the water anymore. That's our way of life.
The water's for recreation.
They're like the avatars, the Na'vi who live in the water.
The railroad
is
is not
their way of
for
life.
playing.
I'm looking at
No
it right
one's
now.
ever
and there's some
they're just constantly
kids.
on this fucking railroad.
I guess we didn't mention the charming hobo, but that's okay.
Well, he leaves town, the charming hobo,
Mm-hmm.
because Smokey lonesome.
Smokey?
Smokey lonesome.
Smokey lonesome.
Because I don't know why, but they try to make you think for a second Smokey's the one that you saw him not kill him, so I don't really understand that. But
I guess we also didn't mention that Ruth and E.G. open the Whistle Stop
oh
Cafe
my god,
together.
we haven't mentioned a lot.
And what thing they serve is fried green tomatoes. You ever eaten fried green tomatoes,
I
Lacey?
haven't. It sounds fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like let me deep fry watermelon while I'm at it. Something just bursting with moisture. Ew.
Ew, yeah. I thought maybe we should try them for this podcast. Who cares? Here's what I wanted. Here's something though.
Hey, smoker.
So, the dramatic final sequence of the movie is Jessica Tandy revealing it was me all along,
Do you
Kathy
think
Bates.
it's that
I'm
dramatic?
Iggy.
Do you think it's
Iggy, that was you.
Do you find it that dramatic?
No, I find it confusing and unsatisfying. Actually,
think it was-
sorry, before we get to that, I wanted to mention one more thing. In the present tense, old Ninny lives in the retirement home, the nursing home with her friend, Mrs. Otis, and I guess they live in the same room together.
Yeah.
And one day, Kathy Bates comes into the room, and the nurse is like, she's dead. Doesn't specify which
Right.
she. We are meant to think that it is Jessica Tandy who is dead. Fair that I made that assumption, Lacey?
You're supposed to make
Okay.
it. In fact, Kathy Bates makes it.
Yes, thank you. And the nurse, the poor nurse who starts like trying to clean up the room, Kathy Bates harasses her and is like, "Don't tear down her stairs."
No, these are her things.
Okay. For some reason, I've been watching the Saw movies lately, and this reminded me of a scene from Saw 3.
Okay.
Can I play it?
Is this the one
Jigsaw
labeled?
doesn't like jargon.
Oh, wait. I thought I saw one that says harasses the employee.
Oh yeah, let's watch Kathy Bates harass the nurse
Right.
first.
Seems poignant. Tearing down her wallpaper. Flowers. Not her wallpaper.
What is the matter with you people? Can't you wait a goddamn day, for Christ's sake? Oh, do you have no respect? These are her things. Well, I'm sorry, miss, but they told me to get this room ready for another patient. Well, she may be just another patient to you, but she was my friend.
Just shut up.
Oh,
This woman's just doing her job. What, they have to clean out the room? You're tearing down her pictures.
you need someone to direct your intense.
Okay, so in Saw 3, Jigsaw, you know, the murderous murderer, who has lots of plans and schemes, he's dying of a brain tumor, and so he kidnaps a doctor. And he's like, "I kidnapped you because you were my doctor, and when you told me I had cancer, you used medical jargon, and you weren't personal enough, and I don't like that. So now it's time to play a game." Yeah.
There's no preventative treatment for what you have.
I remember you saying that to me once before in almost the exact same tone. Leave it to a doctor to find such a cold, clinical way of saying I'm a dead man walking.
Well, that's not a good way to say it
Looking
either.
at me, how long would you say I have left?
I'd have to examine you. Even then, a frontal lobe tumor is unpredictable. The growth depends on the rate of
Why
mitosis
am I
versus
playing this?
apoptosis.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, but there's all this crude medical equipment around me causing you to believe that you're still inside a hospital.
Okay, what? Truly turn this off.
Then why are you speaking to me in that graduate school medical jargon?
Like, how does he want her to fucking talk?
Look at me!
Ah! Yeah. Don't use words like brain tumor,
Right.
inoperable, heal.
We cannot operate on your brain, Bobo.
Don't talk to me. Do you think we're in a graduate seminar?
Right, like, okay, lady doctor, you're trying to impress me? Like, I'm trying to tell you about your fucking tumor, man.
So Nini dramatically reveals, "I am Iggy," or am I? There's a semblance of an idea, and you kind of mentioned it, that I do like to this, which is that she lived a whole life after her story with Ruth. And there's this idea sort of
Lived a whole life with after
yeah,
Ruth.
yeah,
not
after Ruth had a child, all kinds of things.
after she had a child. You accidentally are running your sentence together, making things sound very different than they are.
My apologies.
Okay.
And there's old philosophical question of why do we even use the same names throughout our lives? Are we really the same person throughout our lives? What sort of continuity exists between you and the you who was a child and the you who was in their 20s and the you who walked on the dam with their brother and all that. So I just kind of liked, if the movie were more serious about that, it would be interesting if she's like, well, I'm not that person. I'm not Iggy anymore. I'm Nini. But she's also obsessed with Iggy. The second thing she says to Kathy Bates is, "Have you ever heard of Iggy Thorngood?"
Yeah, it's the single most interesting thing she's ever done in her very typical life, except for that sliver of pie. It's the only thing movie worthy.
It'd be like you immediately saying to a stranger, "Have you ever heard of Lacey Roth when she did a podcast about?"
Yeah, but that's not extra special. Don't you think that when you're an 82-year-old person and your friend's dying in the room next door, you start to think about like stuff?
No,
All right.
I don't think you think about stuff.